Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We hope you like what you hear. So, our podcast is for people that want to learn something new or make themselves a little bit better every day. So, we cover a wide variety of topics. We kind of focus on mindset, keeping control of our emotions, making fact based, left brained, logical decisions, and making the world better by how we interact with people, showing leadership and stoicism. So, our episode today, we are going to share with you 10 responses that you can use, have in your toolkit for when someone insults you. So, it's a very common thing in the world for whatever reason, especially online. Um, People love to insult people. I don't know why. I get it. When I was 15, I thought it was funny and cool too, but I'm not 15 anymore. I'm an adult. You'd think most adults act like adults, but we all know that's just not the case. So we've all been there. We've been in a conversation where it's either a regular conversation, normal conversation, or you can tell it's contentious, heated, prickly, however you want to call it. And someone, whoever you're speaking with, or if you're in a group of people, someone decides to take a swipe at you. So, how you respond actually makes all the difference in the world. So, when someone insults you, the by far the most important thing to do is stay calm and not react. So don't show outward emotions, don't clutch your pearls, don't inhale deeply, don't raise your eyebrows in general. The best way to handle it is to stay very calm, very composed, like what they said didn't even resonate with you and didn't ruffle any of your feathers. So if you outwardly react, you're actually giving them what they wanted, which is to get a rise out of you, to get under your skin, to see that they've impacted you in some way, which is actually the worst thing that you can do when someone is being aggressive towards you or trying to insult you. So, by far, the better thing to do is to remain calm, stay even keeled, even tempered. Don't raise or lower your voice. Don't talk faster. Those are all common things that people will do when they have that kind of fight or flight reflex kicks in their system and they're feeling threatened. They're feeling insulted. They're feeling denigrated, however you want to say it. So instead of doing those things, we're going to give you some tips. We're going to give you some phrases. We're going to give you some approaches that you can use when somebody does take a swipe at you, because it's going to happen. Look, the world's a tough place. You got to have thick skin. You're not always going to get along or see eye to eye with everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. They don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with them. Doesn't mean it needs to be contentious. Doesn't mean it needs to be adversarial. Doesn't mean it needs to turn personal. But sometimes other people take it that way. You're better off taking the road we're talking about here, and we're going to give you these phrases. So we've tried all some version of these phrases in lots of different scenarios, and we've been in literally thousands of negotiations, thousands of conversations that most people would consider difficult or prickly or contentious, let's call them. And they'll help you de-escalate the situation and get the aggressor to back off at least a little bit. A lot of times you can back them all the way down, but sometimes you've got someone that's real aggressive and they're hell bent on insulting you. And so a lot of times, that's it is what it is. And if you just handle it the way we're talking about, it's the fastest way to get it behind you and for you to move forward. So, first couple are humorous, and then the rest of them are of varying degrees of kind of turning the conversation back on the person that is being aggressive. So, the first one is survey says. So, if someone says, "Hey, your breath stinks," survey says, no, not an answer we were looking for right there. So, by using humor to kind of de-escalate, it gives the other person a chance to back off, to recant, to soften their language. And by you being the one that was insulted, showing the humor, it shows that you have confidence. It shows that you can handle yourself on your feet. It shows that you have a maturity about you that most people respect much more than a person who's hurling insults at somebody else. So that's a good one, or some version of that. The second one is kind of a different version of that, which is flag on the play, right? So you use a sports analogy. You can use a baseball analogy there. Instead of flag on the play, you could say swing and a miss. There's lots of different ways you could do it, but some humorous way to kind of reframe it in a sports analogy. This works especially if you're with a bunch of guys, because guys will find that humorous. They'll understand it. They'll look at the other person and go, "Oh man, you really missed the mark with your attempted insult there." And those are good ways to use some humor to de-escalate the situation, back the other person off, kind of take some air out of the conversation so it's not as pressure filled. So those are a couple of good ones to start off with. The third one is a little bit snarky, but it works if you want to go this route. And that is, thank you, but I'm not accepting unsolicited feedback right now. So, like, I will say it much more directly. What I'll say is, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled not to care about it. I use that one a lot. That's for someone that's real comfortable being real direct, because that in of itself can be insulting me because it's very dismissive of the person. Because what it's essentially saying is, you're not important enough for me to care about. I don't care about your opinion. I don't care what you think of me. You're not important enough to rank on my give a shit meter. And so that one can be a little bit snarky, a little bit condescending, a little bit insulting. But I say it just like I said it right here. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled not to care about it. So you don't raise your voice. You don't get excited. You don't insult them directly. You're kind of indirectly insulting them. But thank you. I'm not accepting unsolicited feedback. That's a more polite way of doing the same thing. And again, it just de-escalates the situation. Most people aren't going to be prepared for you to say something like that after they've come at you aggressively. And it's a good way to kind of take the temperature in the room down a little bit. The fourth one is actually a good one if you're going to respond at all. And that's our last one. We'll talk about the power of saying nothing. And that's by far generally now in our, as we've become more experienced, which is a polite way of saying we're old. It's a good way of just not even acknowledging that someone just said something insulting, just breezing right past it. But we'll get to that. Right now, if you're going to say something, a good one is, are you okay? Like, if you say it like that, it makes it seem like something's wrong with them. Like, why on earth would someone make a comment or a statement like that out loud to another person intentionally? Something must be wrong with this person if they're going to make those kind of statements. And by saying it out loud, are you okay? Like, say it just like I just said it. Are you okay? It really backs people off and puts them on their heels. And it's a great way to go if you're going to respond, because it really puts it back on them to kind of acknowledge what they just did and explain why they did it. And most people don't want to do that. Most people are looking to bully you and hope that they'll get a rise out of you, hurt your feelings, have you slink away, whatever the case may be. But are you okay is a great response if you're going to respond. Next, could you repeat that, please? Just very matter of factly. Could you repeat that, please? Like, you couldn't have just said what I think you said. So I need you to repeat it again, because that, like, no way you would say that to me. And say it like as a question. Could you repeat that, please? It's a great way to be very dismissive of what they said, and again, push it back on them to deal with the fallout or the repercussions of the swipe they just took at you. So if you take that approach, those are both good questions to ask to the other person, because it's a question to them. They kind of have to respond to it. And if you're talking to a seasoned negotiator, a seasoned debater, a seasoned arguer, whatever you want to call it, like if I was on the other side of the table, I wouldn't bat an eye if someone said, "Are you okay?" I'd say, "I'm just fine. You heard what I said." But I don't attack and insult people personally. I attack arguments. I attack flawed arguments really hard. And that can be very uncomfortable, because when you point out the flaw in someone's thinking or the flaw in someone's logic, it makes them feel bad. But it's necessary sometimes. But you really, when you are speaking to another person, you absolutely want to avoid personal attacks, because ad hominem attacks, personal attacks, are like the lowest form of argument. It shows a really low intellect. It shows a really low emotional intelligence. It shows a really low relationship management um, technique, and you're just not good at dealing with people if you want to insult them personally. Um, so yeah, there you go. There's that. Could you repeat that, please? Then there's some things that you could say, or a thing you could say, um, that just kind of pauses everything, and that is, what a thing to say out loud. Like just calling it out. Like, I heard what you said. Can't believe you said it. Why would you say that out loud? What a thing to say out loud. That's a great way to go. Pauses them, stops them, makes them think about what they said, gives them a chance to back down, retract, lower the temperature, whatever the case may be. But that one's a good one if you just want to make a statement. What a thing to say. And then we get back into some more questions you can ask. And again, if we ask questions after somebody insults us, we're not responding to the insult. We're kind of putting it back on them to respond to what they said, to back up what they said, or to back down from what they said. So the next thing, and I've used this one too, what are you trying to accomplish by saying that? Like, what was your goal? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to accomplish by saying that? And again, just ask it like a real matter of fact question. Like, what'd you have for lunch? What are you doing tomorrow? Why are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish by saying that? What's your goal here? What are you trying to get at? Right. So again, it kind of pushes it back on them and forces them to confront the really egregious or stupid or insulting thing that they just said to you. Well, what are you trying to accomplish by saying that? I don't understand. And actually, I don't understand is one of them. That's just asking that all on its own. We'll get to that. But just saying it that way really puts it back on them, and it really forces them to defend the comments that they just made. Another one, which is another way of saying, hey, you're not as important as you think you are. What makes you feel comfortable saying that to me? Well, why would you say that to me? And again, it's a question. It puts it back on them. Explain yourself. What you just said was really insulting. It was unnecessary. It was inflammatory. Why would you do that? What are you trying to accomplish? What makes you feel comfortable doing that? How do you feel like that's okay? Make it make sense to me. Right? So again, anything you can do to not react, to stay calm, to stay rational, and to push the argument back to the person who's taking it in a bad direction and make them defend what they just said. But you want to do that in an unemotional way, right? If I break down in tears and say, what makes you feel comfortable saying that to me? That's not going to be real impactful. That's going to be like, uh-oh, Joe's lost it. He's off his rocker, which could be true, but I don't want anybody to have any evidence that it's true, right? So I want to play those cards pretty close to the vest. So that's another good one. What makes you feel comfortable saying that to me? And then another good one is just to do the Tom Hanks from Big. So if you've ever seen the movie Big, Tom Hanks is a little boy who goes to like a carnival and he makes a wish on a machine that says, I wish I was big. And he wakes up the next morning, he's like a 30-year-old guy. And so he goes into New York because he's in New Jersey when he makes the wish, and he gets a job, and he winds up climbing the ladder because he's so refreshingly straightforward and candid, at least from the boss's perspective. So they're in a meeting. This guy's making a big pitch on the new toy. He works at a toy company, right? Because he's a kid. And the guy's making a big pitch on what the new hot toy is going to be. And it really was like a transformer. So it was like a building that turns into a robot. And Tom Hanks raises his hand in the meeting and says, I don't get it. And it turns into this big thing. And the guy thinks Tom Hanks has personally attacked him when he was just being a 12-year-old kid saying, I really don't get it. I don't understand. And so by saying I don't understand or I don't get it, again, it pushes the conversation back on the person who's being aggressive, back on the person who's trying to insult you, back on the person who's trying to get a rise out of you. And it's forcing them to deal with what they just did and what they just said. And saying it very matter-of-factly, I don't understand. I don't get it. And just be quiet. So one of the things from a negotiation perspective, we learned a long time ago, there is so much power in silence. And that's our final thing. That's our final response, which is no response. But there is so much power in an uncomfortable silence. So you can ask one of those questions and just shut your mouth and wait for them to talk. When it could be 30 seconds, it could be 2 minutes. I don't care. Like sit there and stare at them. Wait until they respond again. I've gotten so many people to admit to stealing because they were stealing by asking them a question. And then when they respond with some bullshit answer, I just say no. I have a friend who called it the combination of the uncomfortable silence and the discrediting nod because I do just that. Nope. And I don't say a word. I don't respond. I don't bail them out. I don't give them rope. I don't give them anything. They've got to respond and they've got to explain the bullshit answer that they just threw up on my desk. Like, make them defend it, make them back it up, make them stand behind what they just said. And all those questions that we've got in there. Are you okay? Right? That makes them defend it. Could you repeat that, please? That makes them defend it. I don't understand. Makes them defend it, right? That's on them. They've got to explain it now. I don't get it. Like, make them defend it. It's a good way to go. Really pushes it back on them. And then the one that we refer to or defer to actually most often now is nothing. Say nothing. Just move on with the conversation like the person didn't even say it. There is nothing that infuriates people more than not feeling like they're not being heard. So if you're really looking to put the other person back on their heels and make them really question how they're going to get through what they need to get through or accomplish what they're trying to accomplish, which in our scenario is probably something negative. We're assuming it's something negative, but just don't acknowledge it like it didn't happen. Just pretend it never happened. Yeah, well, you're an idiot, Joe. So like we were talking about, just right by it like it never happened, like it's a figment of their imagination. No response is almost always the best way to handle these situations. Because let's just assume for a second that you're talking to someone and having a conversation in good faith and things get heated. Let's just say it's a conversation around something political or something deeply emotional personally. And you want to have a productive conversation. And if you engage in these ad hominem attacks and the back and forth between each other and you let it go down that road, you're not going to be super successful. But if you say nothing and just move on, or you can say nothing and wait for them to talk again. So like if they're insulting you and you say nothing and you sit there for 30 seconds, almost all the time they're going to jump back in. Oh, what I meant was, I didn't mean it the way it came across. I didn't mean to say that. Those types of things. And if you have the backbone to just sit and stare at them and say nothing, super, super powerful. It shows tons of confidence. It shows a tons of emotional intelligence. It wins you all sorts of credibility if there's other people involved. And it shows tremendous leadership because you as the leader saying, we're not going down this road. We're going to stay focused on the things that are important, on the things that matter. We're going to let these stupid little insults derail the conversation or deter us from trying to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's by far the best way to go, in our opinion, is to say nothing. Plus, think about it this way. The worst punishment in a jail is solitary confinement because you have no interaction with people. It's way worse than anything else in jail. And that's why in a lot of places there's a maximum amount of time that you can put a prisoner in solitary confinement because it really fucks with people's heads. And if you ignore when someone insults you, it is so powerful. It is by far better than any witty, insulting thing that you've got conjured up in your head that's going to make them eat their words or feel like crap. Or what do we call it now? Dunking on people. No, waste of time. Absolute waste of time. Say nothing, much more powerful. It's going to get you much closer to your goals. It's going to help you get to the other side in a much more effective way. So those are our 10 things today, guys. Hope you found those useful. These are from decades, and I do mean decades of experience in tough, difficult, contentious conversations. We got a ton of experience in these things. We're generally very, very productive and very, very successful when we have these kind of conversations. So much so that when someone else has a difficult conversation, they will call us and say, hey, can we just walk through this real quick before I have this conversation? I want to model it and I want to just role play it so that I am prepared when I have the conversation, or even if I have some involvement with the parties that are involved. A lot of times they'll ask me just to sit in and mediate and or direct the conversation because I'm very good at maintaining my calm, not allowing things to get off of track, staying focused on the things that matter, and ignoring the things that don't. And when I say ignore, I mean ignore, say nothing. So super useful tools. I hope you guys are able to use them. They've been very successful for us over a long period of time. So don't forget to head over to our website, guys, saltygingertalk.com. James puts the website up here every day. We've got links to all of our social media content on there. We've got a newsletter that we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to, subscribe to on our channel. And we've got all of our podcast episodes available there. Also, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel on whatever platform you consume it on. Appreciate you guys coming by and checking us out. Hope everybody has a great day, and we will see you next time.